Hare Krishna. Welcome again to our Krishna Lounge program. We're going to have a little discussion tonight about knowledge. We all grew up in school learning so many things, right from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, elementary, middle school, junior high. Learned so much, go into high school, some go to college, some go into PhDs. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he says something here about knowledge. He says, Jnanena tutat ajnanam. Can we have this maybe closed here? And it's a little, these motorcycles are a little noisy. Jnanena tutat ajnanam yesam nasanam atmanaha tesam adityava jnanam bakashti taparam. He says, when one is enlightened with knowledge, by which ignorance is destroyed, then this knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So this is the power of knowledge, transcendental knowledge, that it destroys ignorance. Knowledge of the absolute truth helps us to grow. It helps us to become liberated from material life. However, ignorance causes one to remain in this world in bondage. So a big part of our journey in life is to attain this knowledge. And what is that? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that the preliminary knowledge is knowledge of who we are, that we're spirit, soul. The body is like a vessel for the soul. And when the body dies, the soul will continue according to our karma. So there's material knowledge and there's spiritual knowledge. By material knowledge, people can become very educated. And like I mentioned, they can get a master's or a PhD. One can become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. And by this, they become financially stable. Right? They become financially stable by gaining this material knowledge. But this doesn't solve all the problems. To have a good amount of money doesn't solve the problems of life. Actually, quite often it causes problems. Anxiety. So there's material knowledge and there's spiritual knowledge. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives us an abundant amount of spiritual knowledge. And spiritual knowledge solves all the problems of life. And what are the problems of life? One of the main problems of life in this world is stress. There's a lot of stress in the world, especially now with this pandemic. There's a lot of anxiety. So this meditation that we've been doing here, this helps a lot of people become free of this stress. Meditation is becoming more and more popular because of this problem with stress. And from stress, so many other diseases come. So this is one problem, stress and disease. Nobody wants disease. But when one becomes spiritually advanced, then one has a tendency to transcend the material body. And even though there may be some disease, it's not disturbed, because one understands I'm not this body. I'm not this disease. I'm something different. Yeah. Old age, nobody wants old age. Try to avoid as much as possible old age. But for someone who is spiritually advanced, it's not a problem. Because inevitably, this body's going to die. All these bodies are going to die. At every moment, these bodies are dying right now. The bodies we're getting closer to death, so it's going to happen, inevitably. But we don't die. The good news for the evening. We don't die. Nainam chindanti sistrani, nainam dehati pavaka. That this soul is so powerful that it can't be destroyed by any weapon. Even the most powerful nuclear bomb can't kill the soul. That's how powerful we all are. It can't be destroyed by a weapon. You can't drown the soul. It can't be cut to pieces. Nainam chintanti sistrani, nainam dehati pavaka. You can't burn it. Practically everything can be burned, but not the soul. So, this spiritual knowledge solves so many problems in life. It's like another major problem throughout the world is relationships, divorce, men and women breaking up. So this is another big problem. But when one becomes spiritually advanced, then one is able to live very nicely with other people. No anxiety. Because of that spiritual wisdom. Because of that spiritual wisdom. And this comes. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is filled with so much wisdom. And I was mentioning to one of our guests here earlier, I forgot your name? Danny. Danny, he's been living around here for the past 45 years, believe it or not. First time that he came to the temple. Let's give him a hand. He had the boldness to come finally. So I was mentioning to him that this material world, it's not a nice place. Yeah. Actually, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that this material world is no place for a gentleman. It's not a nice place. So much upheaval, so many problems in the material world. But this spiritual wisdom, this knowledge, as I said, it helps to solve all the problems. Yeah. So there's death. Also, we don't want death. So this knowledge, this spiritual knowledge, helps us to realize that we don't die. We're going to continue according to our karma. We're like the architects of our future. However we're living this life now, we're creating our future. Just like so many people are born into very nice families, like Alfred Ford, the grandson of Henry Ford, a good friend of mine. He was born into a very wealthy family. And as he was growing up, he thought everybody was wealthy, because you grow up in a wealthy neighborhood. He's just a child. He thought everybody was wealthy. So due to his past life, he was born in that situation. Other people, they're born into very poor situations. So why? There's no accidents. There's no accidents. Everything we're getting is due to our past activities. So the goal of the human form of life is to become pure, to get this knowledge, to receive this knowledge and apply it. and become pure. Again, this is actually the goal of the human form of life. Originally, we were all pure, just like water coming from the sky, rainwater, pure distilled water. Then it comes and it hits the dirt, becomes dirty. So we were also pure. We've come in contact, however, with the material nature, the modes of material nature, we become dirty. But just as distilled water that comes in contact with dirt can become purified, there's water purifiers. So we can also become purified. There's water purifiers, there's air purifiers, and there's consciousness purifiers. And that's what this mantra is that we were chanting. This is a consciousness purifier. And you read Bhagavad Gita, consciousness purifier. Your consciousness becomes purified. You'll be amazed how pure you can become. And it's natural for us to be pure. Nobody wants to be dirty, just like we all bathe. We don't want to be dirty. We want to cleanse. This chanting of Hare Krishna, this hearing of Bhagavad Gita, it's like that. We're taking a shower. The soul is taking a shower. We're cleansing the soul. And what is it that we're being cleansed of? These are called the modes of material nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. This is the dirt that we've accumulated for many, many lifetimes. And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Mangtavyo bhyavicharena bhakti yogena sevite, that one who engages in the service of Krishna becomes cleansed of these modes of nature. And this is also the natural position of the soul. We're spirit soul, we're part of that supreme soul, Krishna. Krishna is the all-attractive, supreme person. And this word yoga actually means connection. So we're again connecting. The soul is again connecting with that supreme soul. And this is actually the happiness of the soul. Because Krishna, along with ourselves, we consist of three things: eternality, knowledge, and bliss. This is the nature of the soul. Everybody wants to be happy? Yeah? Anybody here doesn't want to be happy? Raise your hand. No, we all want to be happy. That's the nature of the soul, to be happy, to be very happy, not just casually happy, but very happy. This is the nature of the soul, and that happens by this connection with Krishna. Krishna is the happiest person, by the way. Krishna is very happy. He's never under these modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. He's always transcendental, always very happy. You'll never see a picture of Krishna morose, unhappy. He's always very happy. And when the soul connects with Krishna, we also experience this spiritual happiness. And we get this knowledge, this spiritual knowledge. And we become aware of our eternal existence. Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, the founder acharya of our society, he said the soul is embarrassed to be in the material body because the body is just the opposite of these three things: eternality, knowledge, and bliss. The body is temporary, right? You can't save this body, no matter how healthy you are, no matter how many supplements you take and how long you've been a vegan. This body is going to die, or they're all lined up, right? So, eternality, knowledge. We want knowledge, but there's so much ignorance. So much ignorance is in this world. So eternality, knowledge, and bliss. And people want happiness, but there's so much unhappiness. So it's embarrassing for the soul to be in the material body. To be in this world is an embarrassment. So an intelligent person will question, well, maybe there is something beyond this world. I mean, I don't want to be in this situation where there's unhappiness, there's anxiety, there's so much ignorance. Maybe there is something beyond this world, a world beyond this world, and there certainly is. It's called the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. So this is the goal of personalities who have this higher knowledge. They want to get purified and go back to this spiritual world where there is complete knowledge and eternality and bliss. Einstein once said that education is that which we keep after we forget everything we've learned in school. You think about it, like 90% of the stuff we learned in school, we never use, isn't it? So much stuff we learned in school, never use it. So, but when I read the Bhagavad Gita, I thought, wow, this is practical. This is wisdom. This is wisdom. And the Bhagavad Gita is such that every time you read it, you get more out of it. It doesn't get old. It's timeless wisdom. This is the nature of the knowledge of the Absolute. Actually, there's one chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, knowledge of the Absolute. See, there's relative knowledge and there's absolute knowledge. Yeah. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he's given us absolute knowledge. I'll tell you of one story of a boatman and a professor. One professor, he wanted to cross a river. So we got in a boat, and the boatman, he's rowing the boat. And the professor says, "Oh, Mr. Boatman, do you know anything about zoology?" And the boatman's rowing, "No, Mr. Professor, I don't know anything about zoology." "Oh, zoology. Whew, so many different species of life and you know, survival of the fittest and there are just so many thousands of species of life are continue on. It's just amazing." "You don't know about zoology?" No, Mr. Professor. 25% of your life is wasted." And then they go on, he's rowing. And the professor says, "Oh, Mr. Boatman, do you know anything about astronomy? The stars, the sun, the moon, it's amazing." "No, Mr. Professor, I don't know anything about astronomy." "Oh, 25% of your life is wasted." So they're continuing on. "Well, Mr. Boatman, do you know anything about biology?" "No, Mr. Professor, I don't know anything about biology." 25% more of your life is wasted. So they're continuing on in the river. And then the boatman, he sees some dark clouds coming. Very thick clouds coming. And then it starts raining. Torrential rain is coming down. And it's starting to fill up the boat. And the professor says, "Mr. Boatman, what are we going to do? This is torrential. This is not good." And the boatman says, "Mr. Professor, do you know how to swim?" "No, I don't know how to swim." 100% of your life is wasted. So, material knowledge has some value. But what is most important is practical spiritual knowledge. Because this will This will help us out of this downpour of rain. This material world is compared, it said, samsara dhavan alalita loka. That the spiritual master, he's receiving a benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, the spiritual master, he delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. So this material world is like that. It's a blazing fire of material existence. Then Krishna comes and he showers this rain of mercy, this knowledge which extinguishes this blazing fire of material existence. So I'm curious, who here does not own a Bhagavad Gita? Please raise your hand. Only one? Two. Raise your hands high, please. 2, 3, 4. All right, now then, don't be shy. Because we have a Bhagavad Gita for you. Before you leave, we'll give you a Bhagavad Gita. And one little tip on how to read it. Some people get stuck on reading the Bhagavad Gita on the first chapter. The reason is because, believe it or not, the Bhagavad Gita is spoken on a battlefield. And the first chapter goes into the whole story in the Mahabharata about Arjuna not wanting to fight because it's a fratricidal war. He's fighting against his grandfather, his most loving grandfather, and his teacher, his most loving teacher. So he doesn't want to fight. So the first chapter goes into that. And sometimes people say, well, this is supposed to be a book on wisdom, but it's all about this war, you know. So people get stuck there in the first chapter. So sometimes I recommend people start on the second chapter. Avoid the first chapter, go to the second chapter. And even then I say, just read the bold. Actually, Danny, you might want to try that. Because Danny has it, he hasn't read it yet either. So I suggest if you have it and you haven't read it yet, just read the bold, which is the actual translation of the Sanskrit. Start in the second chapter and just go right through it and read the bold. That way you'll read the whole book in 2 hours. Okay? And you'll get a very nice understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. But now after you read the bold, don't stop there. Go back and read the whole book. But that's just to give you a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, just going through and reading the bold. So then go back and read the whole book, and you'll find it to be fascinating. So, on that note, is there any question or comment by any of you? Yes, yes. I think we have a microphone coming your way within 5 seconds.
Thank you. Could I have 2? How do you pronounce it?
Bhagavad Gita. You want 2?
Yeah, my friend couldn't come, and I want to give him one. We both want to read it together.
Okay.
I can pay for it too.
Okay, thank you. That's always appreciated. Anything else? Usually the first question is difficult because people are shy. But I know someone back there that's not shy. Michael, what's the question? Yes, faith. Sometimes people think that, well, the spirituality, it's all blind faith. But there's also something called blind doubt. So faith is a big part of everyone's life. People go to universities and they have faith that if I go to this university, I'm going to get a good degree and I'm going to go out and I'm going to make some good money. It's faith. When we get on a plane, we have faith that the pilot is not drunk. And I've seen it, actually. Believe it or not, I do a lot of traveling. And I was getting off a plane one time, and a steward told one of the authorities in the airport, see that pilot over there? He's drunk. So it happens. So faith is a big part of our life. And if one reads Bhagavad Gita, and if one is a little thoughtful and intelligent, one will have some faith that there is a Supreme Being, that I'm a spirit soul, I'm part of that Supreme Being, and my happiness will be by this yoga, by this connection with this Supreme Being. So yeah, faith is very important. We're all living by faith in one way or another. So is there any other questions or comments? So we have a nice vegan meal being served out to you. I got the inside information. It's lasagna. Yeah, vegan lasagna, believe it or not. And some nice cake. Lemon cake? Oh my goodness. So, no questions? Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.